Have you ever stopped to wonder why the traits you hate most about yourself seem to control your life the most? The anger you suppress, the jealousy you deny, the selfishness you pretend doesn't exist? They don't disappear. They grow stronger in the darkness like a monster. You refuse to look at that keeps getting bigger and more powerful. What if I told you that everything you've been running from is actually your greatest untapped source of strength? Carl Jung said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Now think about this for a moment. Every time you reject a part of yourself, every time you say, "That's not me. I'm not like that," you are giving that part of you more power over your life. Because what you resist persists, and what you deny controls you. From the shadows, the shadow is not just a concept. It's a living force within you, composed of all the parts of yourself you've deemed unacceptable. All the emotions you've labeled as bad, all the desires you've judged as wrong. And the more you push these parts away, the more they operate unconsciously, driving your behavior in ways you don't understand, creating patterns. You can't break manifesting in your life as the very things you're trying to avoid. Let's go back to the beginning to understand how this shadow formed. From the moment you were born, you began receiving messages about what was acceptable and what wasn't. Don't be angry. That's not nice. Don't be selfish. Share your toys. Don't cry. Be strong. Don't show off. Be humble. And with each of these messages, a part of you went underground. But here's what no one told you. These rejected parts didn't die. They went into your unconscious, where they grew stronger, fed by your denial, nourished by your resistance. And now they operate like a separate entity within you, sabotaging your relationships, undermining your success, creating the very outcomes you fear most. Think about it. Have you ever exploded in anger after months of trying to be nice? Have you ever acted selfishly after weeks of putting everyone else first? Have you ever found yourself doing exactly what you swore you'd never do? That's your shadow, breaking through the barriers you've built, demanding to be acknowledged, refusing to be ignored any longer. You've been conditioned to believe that you must always be good, always be positive, always be nice. But this is a lie that keeps you fragmented, divided against yourself, trapped in a prison of false light, where your shadow grows stronger every day while you grow weaker, pretending it doesn't exist. But here's the truth, no one has told you. Your shadow is not your enemy. It's your power source locked behind a door. You're afraid to open. Think about the last time you exploded in anger after months of suppressing it, or the moment your jealousy leaked out, despite your best efforts to hide it. These weren't failures. They were your shadow breaking through your false persona, demanding to be acknowledged, demanding to be integrated. And until you face this truth, you will remain at war with yourself. The persona Jung talked about is the mask we wear to be accepted by society. It's the good person, the nice person, the proper person. But this mask comes at a tremendous cost. Because while you're performing this role, your authentic self, your whole self, including your shadow, is suffocating beneath the surface. And the more perfect your persona, the more powerful your shadow becomes. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. The harder you push it down, the more forcefully it wants to pop up. And when it does, when your shadow finally breaks through, it often does so in destructive ways that confirm your worst fears about yourself. Your shadow speaks to you through your triggers, through your judgments, through the very things that make you uncomfortable in others, when you can't stand someone's arrogance. It's because you've rejected your own need to be seen when someone's neediness irritates you. It's because you've buried your own vulnerability Jung understood this perfectly when he said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." But most people never get this far. They spend their lives projecting their shadow onto others, blaming others for what they refuse to see in themselves. And this is exactly how the shadow maintains its power through denial, through projection, through the endless game of good versus bad that keeps you split in two. Projection is the shadow's favorite trick. It allows you to see in others what you can't bear to see in yourself. You hate dishonesty in others because you can't face your own capacity for deception. You judge laziness harshly because you've suppressed your own need for rest. You criticize attention seekers because you've denied your own desire to be seen. And here's the cruel irony. The more you judge others for these traits, the more you strengthen them within yourself. Because judgment is just another form of denial. Another way of saying, that's not me. I'm not like that, but you are like that. We all are. We all contain the full spectrum of human potential, both light and dark. Every time you deny your shadow, you pay a price in energy, in authenticity, in aliveness. It takes tremendous energy to keep parts of yourself locked away, to maintain the facade of perfection, to pretend you're something you're not. And this energy drain shows up as fatigue, as depression, as a vague sense that something is missing from your life. But the cost goes deeper than energy. When you reject parts of yourself, you also reject the gifts those parts contain. Your anger, when integrated, becomes passion and boundary. Setting, your selfishness becomes healthy. Self-care, your jealousy becomes ambition and drive. Your fear becomes wisdom and caution. Every shadow trait has a golden core, but you can't access it until you stop running from it. Think about the people you admire most. The ones who seem truly alive, truly powerful. They're not perfect, they're whole. They own their flaws, their darkness, their humanity. And paradoxically, this makes them more attractive, more trustworthy, more powerful than those who pretend to be. Only light integration doesn't mean becoming your shadow. It means owning it, acknowledging it, making it conscious so it no longer controls you from the darkness. This is the paradox when you accept your capacity for anger. You become truly peaceful when you embrace your selfishness. You become genuinely generous. When you face your darkness, you finally find your light. But this process is terrifying because it requires you to admit things about yourself that you've spent a lifetime denying. It requires you to look at the parts of yourself you've labeled as bad, wrong, unacceptable, and see them as they truly are: human, necessary parts of your wholeness. The first step is awareness. You must become conscious of your shadow. See it operating in your life. Recognize it in your projections, your triggers, your judgments. This requires brutal honesty with yourself, a willingness to look at the parts of yourself you'd rather ignore. The second step is acceptance, not approval, not indulgence, but simple acceptance. Yes, I have anger. Yes, I have jealousy. Yes, I have selfish desires. These are parts of me, and fighting them only makes them stronger. This acceptance creates space for transformation. The third step is integration, bringing these shadow parts into conscious relationship with the rest of you. This doesn't mean acting on every dark impulse. It means acknowledging them, understanding them, finding healthy ways to express their energy. When you integrate your shadow, something miraculous happens. You discover that every dark trait contains a gift. Your anger becomes the power to set boundaries, to stand up for yourself, to fight for what matters. Your jealousy reveals what you truly desire, what you're meant to pursue. Your selfishness teaches you self-care, self-respect, self-love. Your fear becomes discernment, helping you navigate real dangers rather than imaginary ones. Your greed transforms into ambition, driving you toward your goals. Your laziness becomes the wisdom to rest, to recharge, to know when enough is enough. But these gifts remain locked away as long as you reject the shadow that contains them. It's like refusing to dig for gold because you don't want to get your hands dirty. The treasure is there, but you can't access it without going through the darkness. When you integrate your shadow, something profound happens. You stop being controlled by it. You stop projecting it onto others. You stop living in fear of being found out because you've already found yourself, all of yourself. And this is true power. Not the power to control others, but the power to be authentically, completely yourself. Think about the people you admire most. They're not perfect, they're whole. They own their flaws, their darkness, their humanity. And paradoxically, this makes them more attractive, more trustworthy, more powerful than those who pretend to be only light. This is what Jung meant when he talked about individuation, becoming who you truly are, not who you think you should be. Wholeness is magnetic. People are drawn to those who are comfortable with all of themselves because it gives others permission to be whole too. When you stop hiding your shadow, you create space for authentic connection, for real intimacy, for genuine relationships, based on truth rather than pretense. But let me be clear, this journey into the shadow is not easy. It's a descent into everything you've spent your life avoiding. It's facing the parts of yourself that make you cringe, that fill you with shame, that you'd rather die than let others see. There will be moments when you question everything, when you wonder if you're becoming worse, not better, when you fear that accepting your darkness means losing your light. But this is the necessary chaos that precedes transformation. The dark night that leads to dawn. Jung called this the night sea journey, the hero's descent into the underworld to face the dragon and claim the treasure. And make no mistake, your shadow is that dragon. And the treasure is your wholeness, your authenticity, your true power. It's not just personal shadows we must face, but collective ones. The shadows of our families, our cultures, our societies. These are the unspoken rules about what's acceptable, the inherited shame about certain emotions or desires, the collective denial of our shared humanity. When you integrate your personal shadow, you also begin to see through these collective shadows. You stop participating in the mass denial of our darker aspects. You become immune to the manipulation that depends on keeping people divided against themselves. This is revolutionary because a person who has integrated their shadow cannot be controlled through shame, through guilt, through fear. They see through the games of those who profit from keeping people fragmented and afraid of their own nature. Nowhere is the shadow more evident than in our relationships. We're attracted to people who embody our disowned parts, the rebellious person drawn to the rule follower, the emotional person drawn to the stoic, the generous person drawn to the selfish. These attractions are opportunities for integration, chances to reclaim projected parts of ourselves, but most people miss this. They either try to change the other person or they judge them, never realizing that what they're really confronting is their own shadow. When you understand this, relationships become laboratories for shadow work. Every trigger becomes a teacher. Every conflict becomes an opportunity for integration. Every judgment becomes a mirror, showing you what you've rejected in yourself. Your shadow contains not just your darkness, but your untapped creative potential. All the energy you've used to suppress parts of yourself is energy that could be used for creation, for expression, for living fully. Artists know this intuitively. They understand that their best work comes from diving into the depths, from expressing what others fear to acknowledge. From giving form to the formless forces within this is why art that comes from the shadow touches us so deeply. It speaks to the parts of ourselves we've forgotten or denied. When you stop fighting your shadow and start channeling its energy, your creativity explodes. You have access to the full spectrum of human experience, not just the sanitized version. You've been allowed to express. Many spiritual traditions speak of this integration process. Though they use different language, the mystics talk about embracing our humanity. The alchemists speak of turning lead into gold. The Eastern traditions describe the union of opposites, but they all point to the same truth. Wholeness requires embracing all of ourselves, not transcending our darkness, but transforming it. Not escaping our humanity, but fully embodying it. Not rejecting our shadows, but illuminating them with consciousness. This is the true spiritual path. Not ascending above our nature, but descending into it fully. Not becoming perfect, but becoming whole. Not eliminating our darkness, but integrating it into a greater light. So now you face a choice. Continue denying your shadow and remain its puppet or turnaround. Face it, integrate it, and become whole. But be warned, this path is not for the faint of heart. It will cost you your illusions, your false identity, your comfortable lies about who you are, but what you gain is worth infinitely more. Freedom, authenticity, power. The shadow will not go away by ignoring it. It will not disappear through positive thinking. It will not be conquered through willpower. The only way out is through the only path to freedom is integration. The only route to wholeness is acceptance. Are you ready to meet your shadow to reclaim the parts of yourself you've rejected to become whole? Are you willing to sacrifice your persona for your authenticity, your false light for your true power, your fragmented self for your integrated wholeness? The journey into the shadow begins with a simple acknowledgement. I am more than I pretend to be. I contain multitudes. I am both light and dark, and both are sacred. From this acknowledgement comes the courage to explore, to question, to discover. Start small. Notice your judgments of others. What do they reveal about you? Pay attention to your triggers. What parts of yourself are they protecting? Observe your dreams. What messages is your unconscious sending? Be gentle with yourself. This is not about self-punishment or harsh judgment. It's about compassionate awareness, loving acceptance, radical inclusion of all that you are. Remember Jung's words, "I'd rather be whole than good," because wholeness includes goodness. But goodness alone can never achieve wholeness. So tell me in the comments, what part of yourself have you been denying? What shadow are you finally ready to face? What would change in your life if you embraced all of who you are? Because your transformation begins the moment you stop running from yourself and start embracing all that you are. The moment you realize that your greatest power lies not in your light alone, but in the integration of your light and dark. The moment you choose wholeness over perfection, authenticity over approval, truth over pretense, the shadow is calling. Will you answer?